I have come to a realization about Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields. Now, if you don't know me, I am an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, and or moreover, I am a Justin Fields fan. So, I have seen Justin Fields play for a while, and I've seen every throw he's made at Ohio State maybe 3 or 4 times. So, while I was watching film today on him, trying to get a full grasp of his game, I sort of got an epiphany. I sort of got a realization. You know, in that cartoon, when that light bulb pops up in your head, that's sort of what happened to me. Now, I want to start off by saying the narrative that Justin Fields is a one read quarterback is honestly one of the worst. It's one of the worst arguments I've ever heard in my life. I think that's total BS. It's just a really bad argument. If you watch games like, let's say, the Clemson game or the Alabama game this year, and even the Clemson game last year, he didn't have much trouble working through his progressions. He would look at the first read, then he would look at the second one, and then take his check down, because he's not a one read quarterback. Now, this is where I've come to that realization, and it might be something that, although I don't think it is worse than being a one read quarterback, it's definitely a problem as well. Justin Fields does not elevate his teammates, and it's pretty clear to me. Now, that sounds bad, it sounds harsh, but that doesn't mean that he isn't a leader. He's a leader. Because I know the first time I heard about a quarterback elevating their teammates, I sort of thought, all right, he's a leader. He gets them to want to play for them. No, Justin Fields gets his players to want to play with them. Players love playing with Justin Fields. But the reason that Justin Fields, the narrative is he's a one-read quarterback, is because his receivers are so good that Justin only has to look at the first read and throw to that first read, because they are always 100% wide open. That is a combination of the lack of competition that Ohio State plays and how good Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, along as well as their other targets, actually are. Justin Fields will be sitting back in the pocket and just looking at Chris Olave run a route for like 5 seconds, and usually within that time frame, Chris Olave has broken down the receiver, and he's gotten to his spot. He's gotten to a place where he's wide open and allows Justin Fields to make an easy read and an easy throw to his guy. And that's why you see Justin Fields' stats as good as they are, his completion percentage as high as it is, because his wide receivers consistently get open. That's not to take anything away from Justin, but his receivers are more of a factor to his success than you would want in a quarterback that you would be willing to take in the top 5 of the NFL draft. Now, what this means is that a couple situations aren't going to be desirable locations for Justin Fields. Jacksonville, Detroit, Chicago, New England, and if the Jets can't spend money this free agency on players like Allen Robinson or Kenny Golladay, then the Jets as well. Now, in my opinion, the dream scenario for Justin Fields is if he is drafted at number 4 to the Atlanta Falcons. This is going to give him Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Hayden Hurst, and Todd Gurley, to name a few of their weapons, and a young coach in Arthur Smith, who I could see having success in that kind of system. That's what Justin Fields has to work with, and I think that could really help him on his transition to the NFL. I look at Justin Fields, and I see a lot of Dak Prescott. I thought before that he's more of a Russell Wilson type player, but I realized today, or Russell Wilson or Cam Newton, but I realized while I was watching film that there's a lot of similarities, including his build and his accuracy and play style to Dak Prescott. And whereas he has the mobility that Dak doesn't, it's still a pretty close enough comparison where I can say I think they're going to have similar careers. Although I do think Justin Fields has a much higher ceiling. I think that Fields could end up being a better version of Dak Prescott. And that's not to discredit Dak, but now it brings me to this question. Is Justin Fields, knowing that he doesn't elevate his teammates, and that knowing that he's going to need a pretty close to perfect situation if he's going to come out of the draft and start right away, would I spend a top 5 pick on him? And as much as I love his upside, I love him as a player, he's a great leader, he's a great kid, I would not spend a top 5 pick in the 2020 NFL draft on Justin Fields. He's a great player. I think he's going to have a lot of success in the NFL, and I do think he's going to go top 5 if a team like Atlanta is willing to take the chance on him. But as for me, I would not spend a top 5 pick on Justin Fields.